about his wartime experiences. He had received the Sir Victor Sassoon Golden Heart Award in 1990, and in 1993 he also received a Commander of the British Empire Award in the Queen's Birthday Honours in recognition of his war record, but also of his civic work. In 1994 and 5, he marked the historical milestones coming out of World War II with 50th anniversaries being observed. And in fact, I think he met 4 generations of royalty. He met the Queen, the present Queen's father, King George, and Queen Elizabeth. And then he met Queen Elizabeth II. In fact, he escorted her on 2 occasions when she came to the War Graves Cemetery on Farrington Road to visit, 1985 and 1994. He met Prince Charles on his visits here, and when he was attending the 50th anniversary celebrations in London on the Royal Yacht, he bumped into William and Harry, who were little boys. In fact, he bumped into William, and William said, "Oh, do you want to meet Harry?" And he said, "Of course," and William ran and got Harry. So he really, ended up meeting 4 generations of kings, queens, or to-be in waiting. Basil, in his retirement years, was very much a visible presence in the schools around Poppy Day. He spoke to students about the significance of war veterans as memories and appreciation began to fade, saying, "Lest we forget, we honor the fallen by helping the living." He became known as the Poppy Man and strove to assist those less economically fortunate war veterans to live out their older years with dignity, largely from the money raised from the sale of poppies, which he was instrumental in having stay here rather than sent back to London. And eventually he struck up an association with the Canadian Legion, who were more forthcoming with assistance than London was. In part 3, which is the shortest span, I describe Basil's passing in 2004, but it's also fascinating for its historical context. My final entry was made in 2014. As I said before, Basil's 80th birthday celebration in particular produced information and magnificent speeches by Sir Orville, the Honourable Paul Adderley, and others, as did the sermon and eulogy and remarks at his funeral, and I've included them in the book for the history that is revealed in those speeches. And then there's a chapter titled Old Mates Revisited, in which I reach out to connect to Basil's wartime comrades for information, sometimes to find that they had only recently passed away themselves. I also document our sentimental journey to England in 2004 after Basil's passing, and our visits to Warboys Village and the church filled with the 156 memorabilia there, the RAF Museum at Hendon, and the Eastbourne Air Show, where we actually saw a Lancaster bomber fly over, escorted by Spitfire and Mosquito fighters. August 2014, in fact, was to be the last flight of the 2 remaining airworthy bombers, Lancasters, one based in Canada and the other in London. And I also write about the various activities to memorialize Basil, his grave at Woodlawn, his war memorabilia, which he donated to the archives, and it's all there in a mahogany showcase. A couple of the other, in fact, Frank Slade, I later found out, his family did the same thing. They didn't want the war medals and memorabilia to be split up amongst family members and eventually lost and tossed out, and so they donated it all to the archives to be preserved in one place. The scholarships at COB, the gift to the Bahamas National Trust, and the plaques at St. Agnes Church in Grantstown. And I referenced also the Bahamian memorials to World War I and II, the Nassau War Grave Cemetery, give some history there, and who's buried there, very interesting. The Lynchgate Memorial, which was Basil's special project. He worked hard to make that happen in Chippenham at the War Veterans Cemetery on Infant View Road, and the Cenotaph downtown. And I also include the information on the Russians and the 156 Squadron website, which is dedicated to the preservation of electronically archiving in Australia's National Library. It's called the Pandora Project, preserving, accessing national documents and resources for Australia. It will be accessed in perpetuity as an electronic publication of lasting cultural value. Basil's in it. He would be so proud to know that he's a part of that memorialization of the record. Because during his life, he was always concerned with memorializing things, you know. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I've arrived at the end of my review. As I did when I held the first copy of The Black Prince in my hand, I now exhale. But seriously, I'm humbled and proud to have produced this work. It's not perfect, although I've tried to be as accurate as I can be from my resource materials. Some of it may be subjective and reflective of Basil's views, which may be at odds with others' views, but it's nonetheless his story. I'm quite naturally pleased at the attention that the memoir has received, the title, I'm sure, evoking curiosity, and that I'm proud that it will form a part of the Bahamian record, and when we are asked, what did the Bahamas do in World War II, this book can contribute to the answer. Because I did not only write about Basil, but I included as many names and as much information as I could muster. My brother Ivan termed it, in hyperbole terms, as an opus magnum. Well, not quite, but I appreciated his enthusiasm nonetheless. Of note, The Black Prince has also attracted the attention of the males. And it's been described as a man's book. And I can appreciate it, and I can appreciate why it would have received that description. I do hope that today's young males can read Basil's biography and be encouraged and inspired by his story of an ordinary man who, through determination, persistence, common sense, stayed true to himself and his values and his goals, and being his brother's keeper, ultimately succeeded in his own way and left a good name as a part of his legacy. And finally, it is my hope that by example, all who similarly have fathers, mothers, siblings, uncles, aunts, with a story to tell, will, like me, break the ground and write the story, and not wait for others to do so. For if not you, who can tell their story as well as? Thank you. Any questions? I'm open to questions.